Well, I'm late to the party as usual. They are not making a new edition of D&D. They are making changes to D&D. They are patching the game, as it were. They are taking the Overwatch 2 approach. So 1 D&D is just 5th edition, but with extensive errata, as far as I can tell. As far as they've made it sound like. And thus, I don't know where I was going with that. What I do know is that I'm recording this on August 30th, which is 2 days before the survey for this particular rule bundle. I don't think I'm going to actually fill out the survey because it would be disingenuous because I'm not actually playtesting any of these rules, but I'm gonna look over them and say what I think, because that seems like a good way to make a D&D video, right? I haven't looked at these yet. This is a completely fresh reaction. I've heard a little bit, and I know that they're just sort of formalizing what they've been doing with the publishing patterns lately. So I have expectations, just not necessarily very specific ones. What I definitely know that they are doing is that the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, I hate the name of that book, by the way. The Tasha's Cauldron of Everything rules for ability score increases are going to be the standard going forward. I get the option, but making it the default feels kind of lazy, because now they're just not printing what used to be the standard option. They're just not doing that anymore. So if you want to know what that would have been for one of the new character options, like the Harengon or the Fairy, you're just out of luck. They don't print the previous default option in the new books. It's just, here you go, customize it, which is them not doing work. So, like, on one hand, I appreciate toolkit approaches to RPGs, but at the same time, part of why D&D is so popular is that it's not one of those. It is a pick up and play system that you don't have to spend time engineering before it functions properly. I'm really excited to get into Cortex Prime, and that system needs to be basically assembled before you can play it. It's modular. D&D was sort of my system for not having to do as much work, and we'll see if they make things more work or not. I should probably start looking at the actual rules soon. I've been rambling for 5 full minutes. Luckily, I'm cutting a bunch of that out because a lot of it is me pausing, but... So, character options... Oh, I guess I have to download the PDF. Okay. Unearthed Arcana 2022 by Jeremy Crawford with Christopher Perkins and Ray Winnegar. I've heard of 2 of those people. This document is the first in a series of Unearthed Arcana articles that present material designed for the Player's Handbook coming out in 2024. The material here uses the rules in the 2014 Player's Handbook, except where noted. That's a little confusing to say, hey, consult the previous Player's Handbook while we're playtesting material for the new Player's Handbook. You know, the book that's gonna replace the one that you're consulting. But, whatever, I guess. Character races, I guess they're still calling them that, being considered for the Player's Handbook with updated designs. Cool. Now that is probably good because the 5th edition has been power crept, and the Player's Handbook race options are suboptimal at this point, like universally. Not that you should always be building to power game. And also, half-elf is an exception. Half-elves are still broken. But yeah, bringing the Player's Handbook races up into the new standard of play is very welcome. Honestly, they could have done that with a regular rule supplement in the same way that the optional class features in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything worked, but I'm assuming that those are actually going to be in the new Player's Handbook. So, character backgrounds, that's how you pronounce that word. Here you'll see the fun role that a character's background is going to play in helping flesh out the character's origin. I have been slightly spoiled on this. A, because other people have been looking at this before me and have been talking about it in places that I am. The other place that I've been spoiled on this is the newest of the books that I have. The Spelljammer character book, what's that one called? Astral Adventurer's Guide, and also Strixhaven. The backgrounds in the newest D&D books have feats instead of the role-playing feature that was standard at the beginning of the edition. And I don't think I like that, but I'll have to see what they've done in this Unearthed Arcana. In the context of regular 5th edition, I don't like it. I dislike it because it unbalances background selection. With backgrounds standardized to give you a feat, maybe I won't care. Starting languages is changing somehow. Every first level feat mentioned herein, herein, that's a vocab word for you, appears in the feats section, which contains both new and revised feats. That's interesting. Rules glossary. Sure. Please read the This is Playtest Material sidebar. This is playtest material. This article is presented for playtesting and feedback. This D&D material is in draft form, usable in your D&D campaign but not refined by full game development and editing. It isn't officially part of the game. That's a thing, by the way. I don't have a source on this, but it was an official interview from either the Dungeons & Dragons YouTube channel or the D&D Beyond YouTube channel. And now that they've bought D&D Beyond, they might as well be the same thing. Last I heard, Unearthed Arcana for 5th edition is designed to be overpowered so that it gets people's attention and gets people excited, and then they fix it. Which is why I don't allow Unearthed Arcana when I run the game. It doesn't function properly, which makes it really bad for playtesting. But hopefully, this is for the Player's Handbook 2, the sequel to the Player's Handbook. This is for a new Player's Handbook. This is kind of important. I really hope they didn't do that this time. The survey is going to be on D&D Beyond now instead of the Wizards of the Coast website. Okay, let's see. The character options you read here might be more or less powerful than options in the Player's Handbook parentheses 2014. If a design survives playtesting, we adjust its power to the desirable level before official publication, but the Player's Handbook 2014 is going to be rendered obsolete, isn't it? So, like, that's the one thing that you can't really promise backwards compatibility with, because it's what you're changing. But yeah, like I said, the game has been affected by power creep, and thus, I'm hoping that anything here from the Player's Handbook, parentheses 2014, is basically just going to be buffed. After choosing your character's class, it's time to consider the character's origin. That's a really weird way to do that. Yes, I will design this character backwards. I mean, I guess that is the order that you tend to create characters. You go, I'm going to make a character of this class, and then you're like, oh, what race would fit the build that I'm going for? And then you're like, okay, time to finish it off with a background. But realistically speaking, what you should, like, the order that these things are defined in the setting is race, background, class, I would assume. Possibly race, class, background if you're a sorcerer, but that's like the only one. Choose 3 things for the character. A race, a background, a language. What? Character's race represents ancestry and confers game traits to the character. That is how that has always worked. A character's background is a collection of characteristics that represent the place and occupation that were formative for the character, not to the character. I can't read. Character origin overview table lists the traits from stuff. Yeah. Creature type. Every character and monster in the game has a creature type, asterisk. That's true. Character size determines some things. We know how that works. Speed is probably the same as before. Lifespan, assuming the dangers of an adventure don't shorten it. Good disclaimer, I guess. Special traits. Alright, backgrounds have the ability score bonus now. Oh. A background grants a +2 bonus to one ability score and a +1 bonus to a different one. That works pretty well, actually. That fixes my gripe of, well, all the background, not backgrounds, but oh, if every character just has a floating bonus, then what's the point of even differentiating between these? What's the point of even having a bonus at that point? It just ups the math of everything for no reason. It's not offering a flavor distinction or any sort of incentive. It's just there, you know. You might as well just make the numbers in the standard array bigger. You might as well just make the number of points in the point buy system bigger. You might as well just re-roll ones when you roll stats. But no, yeah, backgrounds having a +2 bonus to one ability score and a +1 bonus to a different one, that sounds like it should work very well. You get 2 skill proficiencies from a background, that is unchanged. Each background gives a tool proficiency with 1 tool. That is different than before. That is more standardized and less flexible. A character learns 1 language from a background. Previously, obviously, these were grouped into 1 bracket. You could have 2 tool proficiencies, 2 tool proficiencies. Yep, cool. I said that already. You could have 2 tool proficiencies, 2 languages, or 1 of each. The tool proficiencies were always defined, unless it was 1 set of artisan's tools, in which case you could choose. Or a gaming set. I guess you could choose your gaming set or musical instrument. Sometimes it was less defined, actually. Each background provides a first-level feat. Interesting. And part of your starting equipment, which is the same as before. Well, it's probably not the same as before. They might have changed it, but it could be the same as before. I haven't read that part yet. After choosing a thing, you choose a language in addition to the common tongue, and whatever language you gained from the background you chose. Okay, backgrounds are going to define the language that they come with. So, this is seeming to lead into the conclusion of every character being trilingual, which is interesting. Okay, character races, the following options. Human, obviously. Ardling, which I have never heard of in my life. Dragonborn, returning from the player's handbook. Dwarf, elf, gnome, halfling, all returning from the player's handbook. Tiefling, returning from the player's handbook. And orc, which is either going to be replacing the half-orc's spot in the player's handbook, or is just half-orcs without the half part. Because the orc traits for the game exist, they're just not very good, so maybe they're gonna take the half-orc stats and just call it an orc. Children of different humanoid kinds. Thanks to the magical workings of the multiverse, humans of different kinds. Cut that. Thanks to the magical workings of the multiverse, humanoids of different kinds sometimes have children together. For example, folk who have a human parent and an orc or elf parent are particularly common. Many other combinations are possible. We are not going to explain the details of that, because we can't afford to hire a geneticist. Theoretical geneticist? Is there theoretical genetics? I'm sure there is. Like theoretical physics, but if you'd like to play the child of such a wondrous pairing, what, okay, sure. Choose 2 race options that are a humanoid to represent your parents, then determine which of those race options provides your game traits. You can then mix and match visual characteristics of the 2 options. Okay, so this is straight up just saying, hey, while you're playing a character of one humanoid species, you can spice up your visuals freely and just say, yeah, there was a gnome involved. So this is not an in-depth template system. This is not a ridiculous what's it called? You're not gonna have people trying to min-max builds by genetically engineering their entire family tree for the most possible bonuses to charisma. Finally, determine the average of the 2 lifespan traits to figure out how long your character might live. Anyway, yeah, nothing wrong with that. That's probably the least intrusive way they could have done this. It is literally a flavor blurb. Meaningless non-rules text. And yet it provides infinite customization. Humans are relatively short-lived. Okay. Humans do stuff, maybe. Sigil is where the common tongue was born. Okay. They're making common a multiversal trade language, which I think was already the lore technically, but whatever, it's a game mechanic. Size medium or small, chosen when you select this race. Okay, I mean that's new, but sure. You gain inspiration whenever you finish a long rest. You gain proficiency in one skill of your choice, you gain the skilled feat, or another first level feat of your choice. Okay, so it's variant human. Variant human is now the default human. You get a feat. On top of your background feat, which, okay, 2 feats now. 2 feats at first level. And also you just have once per day advantage on something. I'm assuming inspiration stays the same. I mean, it's got a little thingy there, but until I get to the inspiration section, I'm going to assume that it is you can spend inspiration to give yourself advantage on the next thing you're rolling. Ultimately, this is not a big change. Yeah, it is a buff. It is adding something. It's not adding much, though. Kind of undercuts the actual roll of inspiration. Because, if you're a human for the inspiration and you end up saving it for important rolls, then you can only carry one of them. There's not going to be any reason for you to strive to get inspiration, which means that the thing that inspiration is for, which is encouraging getting really immersed into the game, kind of stops being incentivized by the mechanic. But whatever, I guess that's fine. On any given world in the multiverse, the material culture of humans can change from one region to another. In the Forgotten Realms, for example. I don't care. Ardlings are supernal, relating to the sky or the heavens. Okay, so this is Azamar, but less impressive sounding. Oof. An Ardling has a head resembling that of an animal. Huh? Depending on the animal, the Ardling might also have soft fur, downy feathers. I'm not... Wizards of the Coast, I'm not gonna read that. Moving on. Magical power, spectral wings, you can be evil if you want. Exalted, passions of Arborea, heroic heart of Isgard, none of this means anything to me. Chaotic good, heavenly for lawful good, idyllic for neutral good. Alright, you're a humanoid, not a celestial. You just get to choose between small and medium. That seems to be a running trend. I'm assuming the only thing that's gonna change is that you don't get to pick medium if you're a gnome. 200. As a bonus action, you can get wings and fly a number of feet equal to your speed. If you're in the air at the end of this movement, you fall and die. You can use a bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain things on a long rest. Okay. So once per day, not once per day, twice per day at first level, and up to 6 times per day. A whopping 6 times per day at level 20. You get a super jump. Because that's what this is. It's not flying. It's a super jump. Exalted, suggested animals. Cat, eagle, goat, mule. Ah yes, noted chaotic good. Cat. You're a recipient of a celestial legacy that gives you some stuff. You learn the initial benefit cantrip. You can choose the animal that you thing. At 3rd level and 5th level, this is just Azamar. Sort of. Not really. Anyway, these spells work the way that they normally do, as a 1 per day. It's a daily power without a spell slot, and then you also just know the spell. You can choose your ability modifier, which is nice. That's an actual appreciated bit of flexibility in these options. Like, for example, in the player's handbook, right, Drow have all their spells locked to charisma, which kinda sucks. If you're a cleric, you have resistance to radiant damage. Did Azamar get resistance to radiant damage? Okay, I just checked, and the answer is yes, and also necrotic. So this is actually worse. But you can get Thaumaturgy, Divine Favor, and Lesser Restoration, or Light, Cure Wounds, and Zone of Truth, or Guidance, Healing Word, and Animal Messenger. I don't know what Divine Favor does, but You know, the rest of those options are decent, fine, all right. I would even call them all right. Light and Cure Wounds is probably the best, but Guidance and Healing Word is a solid. You know. Anyway, I mean that's fine. That looks fine. It's an okay option. I don't know why you pick it over Azamar, other than like wanting to look like an elephant, which you could do that as an Azamar anyway. I mean, it does seem to be slightly worse than Azamar. You lose a damage resistance, and you're locked into the flying option. You don't get the other two, Fallen and Scourge, where you get like actual damage dealing stuff. But it's fine. If nothing else, it's a good counterbalance to Tieflings being in the player's handbook, which kind of weird that the game that sort of probably implies that you're probably usually trying to be the good guys, not the bad guys. You can play as a fiend, but not a celestial. Anyway, Dragonborn, they have been fiddling with these for like the entire edition. Let's see what they did. The earliest Dragonborn hatched from the eggs of chromatic and metallic dragons. How? Oh, Dragonborn cannot choose to be small, so that's a thing. Draconic Ancestry gives you stuff. Yep. A breath weapon, which deals 1d10 plus your character level. It's a reverse second wind. Okay. You can use it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. I think that's worse. I think Dragonborn had a short rest breath weapon originally, which makes it once per encounter. This is less than once per encounter, technically, if you go by the 6 encounter adventuring day, which nobody uses. Damage resistance, they basically haven't changed anything except the actual damage die, and that you can't choose a 30-foot line anymore, you have to do the cone. So I think this is worse. Yeah, I think they made Dragonborn worse. You know, Dragonborn, the thing that everyone always complains about being underpowered. They've nerfed it. Dwarf traits. Medium, 350 years. Dark Vision, that's probably the same as before. Resistance to poison damage and advantage to avoid the poisoned condition. Dwarven Toughness is just in the base thing now. Oh yeah, because they're removing sub-races for some reason. Your divine creator gave you an uncanny affinity for working with stone or metal. You gain tool proficiency with 2 of the following options of your choice. Jeweler's tools, mason's tools, smith's tools, or tinker's tools. I wouldn't quite necessarily go for tinker's tools, but I guess it does depend on the setting. As a bonus action, you gain Tremor Sense. Whoa, that's new. You must be on a stone surface or touching a surface to use this Tremor Sense. This is way better than regular Stone Cunning. But it's proficiency bonus per long rest. But it lasts 10 minutes. Tremor Sense is good. Tremor Sense is it's a rules term. If you don't play D&D, why are you watching this video still? But it's Toph. Toph does that. If you haven't seen Avatar The Last Airbender, I don't know what to tell ya. Elf. Whoa, hang on. But first elves could change their physical forms at will. They lost this ability. Are you gonna define that? They could change their physical forms like it. How much? Are we talking, you know, just shape changey type? Like, I'm gonna pretend to be that human over there. No, you got the nose wrong, idiot. Or are we talking like an elf just walks into a bar and says, I'm gonna pretend to be a flower pot today. No longer able to shapeshift at wills, the elves retreated to the Feywild. Anyway, the mechanics are what I actually have any thoughts on. Elves cannot choose to be small, I guess. 750 years on average. On average. Dark Vision is the same as it was. Choose a lineage from the Elven Lineages table. So they're not actually removing sub-races. They're just making it harder to see that you're choosing a subray. You gain the first level benefit of that lineage. I don't know why it's highlighting an entire column of the PDF sometimes when I'm aiming for one line like that. I don't know why it's doing that. Starting at 3rd level and 5th level, you gain a spell with this trait the same way that any other spell works. Kinda weird. Okay, so you're getting 1st and 2nd level spells from every elven lineage now, except ones that they print that are... No, actually, no, it's defined in the elven lineage trait, so this is how elven lineages will work all the time from now on. Interesting. Fey ancestry is the same as before, right? Yeah. Except they moved the fact that you can't be put to sleep magically out of Fey ancestry and into the trance trait, which is fair, honestly. Proficiency in perception is the same as before. Drow get bonus dark vision and a cantrip. They've removed sunlight sensitivity, which is a massive benefit. So them removing it is a benefit compared to old Drow. The sunlight sensitivity is not a benefit. High Elves get prestidigitation, and they can replace that cantrip after a long rest. Okay, fair enough. It's just a cantrip. Speed increases to 35 feet. You also know Druidcraft. They get Pass Without Trace at 5th level, but I feel like that's not as good as their ability to hide behind the rain, which was their old racial trait. Gnomes are magical guys. I like gnomes. Humanoid, small, 30 feet. I don't remember if that's a buff or not. I feel like gnomes had 25-foot speed, but I could be misled by my own recollection. 425 years on average. That's a long time, man. Dark vision. Gnome cunning is still here, and has in fact been buffed. It no longer specifies magic. You have advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. All of them. You know, I was thinking, as I was getting to this gnome section, I was thinking, yeah, they've done a pretty good job of leveling out the power across these options. They've done a pretty good job of just, you know, making it relatively non-impactful what you choose, and then they didn't remove gnomish cunning. I'm fine with it. Make gnomes overpowered. And look at that, they still have forest gnomes and rock gnomes, but forest gnomes just do minor illusion and speak with animals a number of times per long rest equal to their proficiency bonus. Okay. And rock gnomes just know mending and prestidigitation, which is, Oh wait, no, they do have the tinker trait. It's just formatted really obnoxiously because it's in a table, and it's, well, you can spend 10 minutes casting prestidigitation, which is not how that cantrip works, to create a tiny clockwork device, such as a toy, a fire starter, or a music box, which I think are the 3 options from before. Casting a spell in this way consumes 10 gold, which you provide during the thingy. Determine its function by choosing an effect from prestidigitation. Oh, that's nice. So this is no longer a defined tinker trait. This is just, hey, for 10 gold and 10 minutes, you can put a use of prestidigitation into a metal box. That's actually cool. That actually frees up the spell a lot. Not spell, trait, the tinker trait. It's more flexible now without losing much. The device produces that effect whenever a bonus action is used to activate it. You make all the choices when you create the device, obviously. You can't make a lighter with a fire extinguisher built into it. You can have 3 devices in existence at a time, and each one dismantles itself 8 hours after its creation. I think that's a shorter time limit than before, but I could be wrong. After a device is dismantled, the materials can be reclaimed. So this is roughly the same as before. Gnomes in general are roughly the same as before. No mention of Svervneblins, unfortunately. Halflings! I'm gonna level with ya. These are my least favorite thing in the player's handbook. They're just hobbits that have been sued. That is it. 150 years of small 30-foot humanoid. 30-foot speed. Okay. Yeah, just a Just a small 30-foot humanoid, as opposed to the big 30-foot humanoids. Okay, Brave is the same as before, I think. It's just advantage against fear. You can move through guys that are larger than you. When you roll a 1 on the d20 of a d20 test. They're calling them tests now. I don't really like that. But it's fine. It's just a term. You can re-roll the die. This is the same as before. And proficiency in stealth, because I guess that's just a thing. So this all looks the same as I remember halflings being. Other than, I guess, they lost the ability score increase. Oh, sub-races. Yeah, they don't have sub-races anymore. I haven't played a halfling before. Orc. Medium, 30 feet speed, 80 years life. Adrenaline rush, you can take the dash action as bonus action. You gain temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. Huh. Okay. And that is a proficiency bonus per long rest ability. It would be nice if they could shorthand this, if they could keyword this paragraph somehow. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. I really do feel like you could just take that paragraph, list it as the definition for a term, and then put that term in parentheses after the name of all these traits, because it comes up so often, and it takes up 3 lines of text, which is gonna take up, 3 lines per time that you print this in the book. That's ink on the page, that's space in the layout. You could save a lot of space and therefore fit more content in the book if you just keyworded that, but I've been playing too much Magic the Gathering, I guess. We don't really keyword things in D&D. That's not how you write an RPG system. Well, weapon traits are keywords. Anyway, orcs have dark vision and powerful build, and relentless endurance. So it really is just the best. It's the one thing that made actual orcs relevant, tacked onto the half-orc stat block, and called orc. Which is good. That is what should have happened in the first place. Yeah, the orc is the first one that I'm actively in favor of, where I'm like, hey, this is outright better than before. I'm kinda shaky on humans getting inspiration for free. It feels weird to take the thing that is supposed to encourage role-playing and hand it out for free to the least, inherently special option, because that's the complaint that people usually have about humans is, oh, why would you play a human? They're so boring. I could find a human just by going outside. Joke's on you. I don't go outside. Anyway, that doesn't even make sense. I literally work in retail. I can, in fact, find humans quite easily. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, if you're playing a human, generally speaking, it would be ideal for you to really lean into your character work, and doing that naturally should result in you gaining inspiration more often, except for the fact that no DMs actually use it. I mean, obviously some DMs use it, but you know what I mean. Anyway, tieflings are here also, still. Abyssal tieflings are in the game. Chthonic? Huh? Yugoloth? Okay, so tiefling is any fiend now, which is probably fine. You can choose to be small! Did Ardlings have that option? I'm sure they did, right? I'm not scrolling back up. 100 years? Man, having your bloodline corrupted by a fiend sure is good for the arteries, I guess. Dark vision is the same as before. You have access to this table down here. The spells work the same way spells seem to always work, which is good. Standardizing things makes the system way easier to learn. You can choose intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Good stuff. You also just know thaumaturgy, which I think was the case anyway. Okay, so Abyssal is resistance to poison damage, which is pretty useful. There's a lot of poison damage at low levels, believe it or not. You also know the poison spray cantrip. Way less useful. There's a lot of resistance to poison damage at low level. Ray of Sickness, Hold Person. Hold Person is a very good spell. Infernal resists fire damage, knows Firebolt, Hellish Rebuke, and Darkness. Other than adding Firebolt, that is the standard Tiefling. That wasn't a question, that was just me not knowing how to talk, I guess. Resistance necrotic damage, chill touch, false life ray of enfeeblement. Overall, decent amount of customization for Tieflings. However, it is less than is actually available, because Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, was it? All kinds of Tieflings in there. Yeah, what, like 12 subraces or something? But then again, this is just the player's handbook, and it's backwards compatible with Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, allegedly. So, what are you gonna do? It's not like they're compiling the entirety of 5th edition into one book and re-releasing it with an updated rule set. It'd be kinda cool if they did. Your character's background is a collection of characteristics that represent the place and occupation that were most formative for the character before they embarked on a life of adventure. When you choose a background, you have 3 options. Build a background by using the rules in the Build Your Background section. Select a pre-made background from the Sample Backgrounds section. Or select a pre-made background from the Sample Background section and then customize it with the rules in Build Your Background. Wild that the 3 options seem to be the options that you already had. I don't know if people skimmed over this paragraph or what, but this is not actually a change yet. When we get into the sample backgrounds, they're going to be different, and actually when we read the specifics of Build Your Background, it's going to be different. However, customizing your background is not even a variant rule. It is straight up in the game. You can take any of the backgrounds in the player's handbook, and you can just say, no, I don't want to be proficient in history. I want to be proficient in perception. And it just works. That's a thing. I feel like I'm pointing out the obvious whenever I literally point out stuff that's written in the book, but I also feel like nobody noticed that was in the book. Or not enough people. Not enough people is what I'm getting at here. Anyway, here's how new backgrounds work. Build your background. This is the relevant section because, hopefully, Wizards of the Coast follows these rules when they release new backgrounds in new books. And thus, all backgrounds are standardized, and we don't have insane power creep with backgrounds where we go from a role-playing feature that does not affect your actual mechanics to, well, you know, the Ravnica backgrounds provide an extended spell list, but yeah, it's fine. You're only going to use them in this one setting, so, you know, it's not that big of a deal. And then we go over to Spelljammer, and you get a feat. You get a feat. Speaking of getting a feat, when you build a background, your character gains the features in the background features section below. As you make choices for those features, don't just power game, like, actually consider your character when you make your character. That's cool. That's a long paragraph to say, hey, when you make a character, actually write the character. If you instead decide to customize a pre-made background, you can choose any features in that and replace them with features of the same feature. That is how that would work. Yep. Ability scores. When you determine the character's ability scores, choose 2 of them. Increase one by 2, and the other by 1. Alternatively, choose 3 ability scores, and increase each of them by 1. So, you get 3 plus 1s, and you aren't allowed to dump all of them on the same stat, is what I'm getting here. Now, the fact of the matter is, this is not actually locked to anything, because you can just make a custom background, which is fine, obviously. But yeah, good. Choose 2 skills, choose 1 tool, choose 1 language from the standard or rare table. Interesting, cool. They are specifically excluding exotic languages, I think. I'm assuming those still exist. Your character knows that language. Oh boy, Celestial. Yeah, okay, well, that's... Character gets a 1st level feat. I guess feats have level requirements now, like most of them, as opposed to some of them. Oh, and 50 gold to spend on starting equipment. Okay. They've actually standardized the budget for background equipment now. That is not even something that occurred to me as a balance factor. Good job, guys. Okay, and here's where the backwards compatibility comes in. If you're getting an ability score increase at character creation level 0, from a race or from the rules from these books, you don't also get your background unless you forgo the older thing. Fair, reasonable. This is replacing that rule, and therefore it does not stack with that rule. You cannot get a total of +6 to your stats by choosing a new background and an old race. It should be obvious, but pointing it out is necessary. If you're gonna let people keep using the original player's handbook for some reason while the new player's handbook is out, I guess you would have to write that you can't do that in order to prevent people from doing that. Thanks, sidebar. Appreciate it. Sample backgrounds. Acolyte gets pluses to wisdom and intelligence. Skills are insight and religion. Think that's the same as usual. Calligrapher's supplies makes sense to me, that's good. Celestial. Cool. Magic initiate, parentheses divine. I'm assuming that means using the cleric spell list. Yeah, this is exactly how I would expect the Acolyte background to function under these new rules. And then you get the stuff in this list of stuff. That's a lot of parchment. Artisan, you get tools, you get gnomish, okay. Intelligence, charisma, investigation, persuasion. Feat crafter, never heard of that before. Some stuff, 25 gold, sure. Oh yeah, I guess that's a book. Books cost a lot of money. They're not changing the price of books, are they? I'm not gonna go through all of these backgrounds with a fine-tooth comb because they all work the same way. There's no real point. Cultist. But in general, this new system seems good to me. The language is a little weird. I mean, sailors know primordial. You hang out on a boat and you learn how to talk to fire elementals is what I'm reading here. Insane. Not confident on there being a specific language tied to generic occupational backgrounds as opposed to, like, you know, geographic backgrounds, but there are no geographic backgrounds because there's no built-in setting for the game. I mean, there's a bunch of built-in settings, which means you can't make stuff that's specific to one of them in the book that's not specific to one of them. Common Sign Language is officially referenced in the game, so that's something that I just glanced over and thought, huh, yeah, it's good to point out that exists. Appreciate it. Standard languages. Common Sign Language. It's on the table and everything. Cool. Dwarvish, Elvish, Giant, I guess. Gnomish, Goblin, Halfling, Orc. Rare languages, which is just gonna replace the exotic languages table. Mostly Abyssal, Celestial, Deep Speech, Draconic, Infernal, Primordial, Sylvan, Undercommon. That's all the same as it has been. Thieves' Cant is officially on the languages table now, and so is Druidic. You can choose those with your background now. The Build a Background thing says you can pick a rare language, and they've gone and put Druidic and Thieves' Cant, the class feature languages, on the table. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I necessarily care, but it's a change. It's different than it was before. Also, this is officially spelling out Thieves' Cant as a language rather than a class feature. Because originally Rogue the class didn't technically call it a language. It just said, you know Thieves' Cant. Thieves' Cant is this thing where you do a weird, illusion, right? It says, hey, communicating in Thieves' Cant takes 4 times as long as communicating not in Thieves' Cant. Technically, in the original player's handbook, Thieves' Cant is not a language. It's a class feature. But now it's on the languages table, which means comprehend languages should hit Thieves' Cant. Technically. Which is buffing a spell, indirectly, and nerfing rogues. Which is fair. Anyway, here's the feats section. Most of what's in the background section makes very little sense without the actual feats. because, well, that's the actual bulk of the mechanics. Each feat has a level. To take a feat, your character level must exceed or equal the feat's level. I suppose that makes sense. Prerequisites. We're doing feat trees, guys. We're doing chains now. If a feat is repeatable, you can take it more than once. Yeah, that's the same as before. Okay, alert. Prerequisite, no. Repeatable, no. Initiative proficiency. That is not how that worked before, I think. But I guess it's fine. Yeah. Immediately after you roll initiative, you can swap your initiative with the initiative of one willing ally in the same combat, unless they're incapacitated. That is rather helpful. Now, alert used to prevent you from being surprised. It doesn't seem to do that anymore. But this is very useful. You're probably going to have high initiative. If you don't, you can go first anyway if somebody goes later. But more importantly, you can take one of your allies that is super impactful in a fight, and you can say, you know what? I have decided that you are going first. I have never considered taking the alert feat until now. I still won't. Crafter, no. I'm reading these lines. It's not prerequisite and it's not repeatable. You gain tool proficiency with 3 different artisan's tools. That's a lot, but it's also not that many when you look at the list of artisan's tools. Whenever you buy a non-magical item, you receive a 20% discount on it. What? When you craft an item using a tool that you have proficiency in, the crafting time is reduced by 20%, but the value of the supplies that you need is not reduced. Whereas the fully manufactured shop item, you just have a coupon that you crafted, I guess. This is weird. This is not well designed. I'm gonna say the crafter feat is bad, actually. Specifically, just change the discount from you get 20% off shopping to you have to spend 20% less on crafting. You know, the thing the feat is for. Why do you get a discount? What? Okay, right, listen. I have taken art classes, I have taken jewelry classes, I have taken welding classes, I have taken woodworking classes. You could argue that I am proficient with perhaps even 3 sets of artisan's tools. I do not get 20% off all non-magical items. This is such a stupid feat. I hope they fix that. Healer. If you have a healer's kit, you can expend 1 use of it within 5 feet as an action. The creature can expend a hit dice. Expend 1 of its hit dice, rather. They used proper grammar, I didn't. And you roll the hit die, and the creature regains hit points equal to the roll plus your proficiency bonus. So their constitution doesn't impact their healing. Your proficiency bonus does. Which is good sometimes and bad usually. I think constitution modifiers tend to be higher than proficiency bonuses, unless you're a class that doesn't need the extra constitution because you have, you know, for whatever reason, and you're high level. I regularly see +3 to con at level 1. Your proficiency bonus at level 1 is +2. This is worse than healing out of combat, but also you're healing in combat, so it's better. Whenever you roll a die to determine the number of hit points you restore with a spell or this feat, you can reroll a 1. Okay. I was about to say, whoa! It's for 1s. It's just for 1s. That's still good. Lucky, this feat is banned from like half of all D&D tables. Luck points equal to your proficiency bonus. Oh yeah, give us more luck points. That'll help. You can spend them on the benefits below, and you regain them on a long rest. Immediately after you roll a d20, you can give yourself advantage. That's not how advantage works, technically, but sure, okay. When a creature rolls a d20 for an attack roll against you, you can spend a luck to impose disadvantage on it. Okay. I don't think this is different than it used to be, actually. I don't think they've changed this. The feat that everyone always complains about is the same as it always was. Actually, it's worse now because you get more luck points. Magic Initiate! Ooh, repeatable, but you must choose a different spell list each time. This is not actually repeatable originally, so this has been buffed. I appreciate that greatly. I like Magic Initiate a lot. You've learned the basics of a particular thing. Choose a spell list, Arcane, Divine, or Primal. I'm assuming that means Wizard, Sorcerer, Warlock, Cleric, Paladin, Druid, Ranger. I'm forgetting something. Artificer would go under Arcane. Hang on, are they giving Artificers the entire Wizard spell list? Anyway, you gain 2 cantrips, and you get a first level spell that you can use once per day. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for these spells. You choose it when you select the feat. That's a little bit of a buff. Whenever you gain a new level, you can replace one of the spells for this feat with a different spell. Okay, so they made this way more flexible. Way more flexible. Which I appreciate on some level. It is a little pushed. It's a little overpowered now. Compared to... We don't have the full updated rule set, so I'm only comparing it to the way 5th edition works now, and I'm saying Magic Initiate is already strong and they've made it better. That seems overpowered, but I don't know. I don't dislike it, I guess. I'm gonna have to see these new spell lists, but also I'm probably not gonna process them because it's just a list of spells, so whatever. Musician, you gain 2 proficiency with 3 musical instruments. Whenever you finish a short or long rest, you can play a song to give inspiration to allies who can hear the song. Number of allies you can affect equals your proficiency bonus. So that's another way to just give people inspiration. So they're changing the system to have a bunch of ways to just give people inspiration. And I don't know how much I approve of that personally, but I guess it's a thing now. Either they're gonna stick with it or they're gonna say, well, people don't seem to like this. I haven't playtested this. It could be good. It could be good. It doesn't seem... it's me falling back on what inspiration is supposed to be for, and nobody actually uses it for that. So, I mean, if you have the rule in the game anyway and no one's using it, you might as well repurpose it, but it really does undercut what inspiration is supposed to be for. It's supposed to be for rewarding engagement, and I really like engagement when I'm running the game. I appreciate it when my players are paying attention, you know, type stuff. But I guess we just hand out advantage now. Savage Attacker. You've trained to deal particularly damaging strikes. When you attack action and hit with weapon, you can roll the weapon's damage dice twice and use either roll once per turn. Is that how Savage Attacker has always worked? I think maybe. The weapon's damage dice is very particular wording. It is only, you know, if you have a magic weapon that has attached bonus damage, you get to reroll those. But if you are, for example, a rogue, you don't get to roll 2 sets of sneak attack damage. That would be brutal. That would be overpowered. Savage Attacker referencing weapon damage dice, entirely fair. But, we're on page 17 of 21, and, anyway, skilled is a feat. It's repeatable, which is nice, I guess. Choose 3 skills. You gain proficiency in those skills. Sure, yeah. Didn't it used to be 4? No, I'm thinking a Weapon Master. Tavern Brawler, this is, bludgeoning damage of 1d4. You can re-roll your unarmed strikes on a 1. Oh, you can shove now, instead of just grappling. And also, you can't grapple anymore. They replaced the grapple with a shove. You can damage the target and also push it 5 feet away. Oh, well, that's way better. That's way better than I thought. Hang on. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike as part of the attack action, you can deal damage and also push it 5 feet away. No additional roll. They don't have a chance to avoid the forced movement. I mean, you only get it once per turn, but that's all you need. That's all you need. You can wield furniture as a weapon, using the rules of a great club. Okay. Or the rules of a club for tiny furniture. What exactly counts as tiny furniture? I feel like anything tiny ceases to be furniture and crosses into the realm of decoration. Is that just me? Tough. Your hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to twice your... This is the same as it was before, which is a little rough. I've seen a very common house rule that takes the tough feat and the durable feat and melds them together like Bruna and Gisela in the Innistrad set. Not the new one, not the other new one either. Shadows over Innistrad? I didn't play Magic all the way back then. Rules glossary includes game terms that have been new or revised and stuff. If a term doesn't appear here, uses definition in the definition of the thing. An arcane spell draws on the ambient magic of the universe. Bards. I forgot bards existed. Sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards. And artificers. I don't really like the idea of all of those spell lists being the same as each other. I don't think I appreciate bards having the same spell list as artificers, actually. But then again, I'm a weird person. I'm a weird and wild person who wants more spell lists that aren't even attached to classes. So ignore me when it comes to spell lists. You know, maybe simplifying it down to you're an arcane class, or a divine class, or a primal class. Maybe this works better for people. I'm pretty neutral to negative on it, but my preferences are vastly incompatible with even the normal 5th edition. Like, I would straight up put spell lists into the category of setting dependent. Granted, I only have that opinion because of the way that they've botched Dunamancy. I remember them coming out with the Wildemount book, and there's this whole section on Dunamancy spells. I don't know what that word means, Matt. There's a sidebar in the Dunamancy section, right? And it just says, we're not going to put these on any spell lists. It's up to the DM. Figure it out. And at that point I was like, okay, they don't actually care about spell lists, do they? They're not actually paying attention to this. If you can just tweak the spell list at a whim because of these Dunamancy spells, then why stop at this weird bundle of spells from Matthew Mercer's campaign setting? Why stop there? Why not just have a separate spell list for every conceivable source of magic? Yeah, the Genie Patron has its own spell list now. Yeah, Divine Soul Sorcerer, it's just inspired by the Cleric spell. It doesn't have access to the Cleric spell list, it just has its own spell list with a bunch of Cleric and Sorcerer spells on it. I personally, right, I'm playing a Gnome Druid at the moment, who has changed the Druid spell list to have less elemental spells and less damage spells, and more mind control, more summoning spells, is what I meant to say. Circle of the Shepherd, Lawful Evil. Artisan's tools are a category of tool proficiency. Ignore the prices. All Artisan's tools now cost 15 gold. Okay. That's a massive... First of all, that completely breaks the setting, because a loom... a loom and thread now cost the same as a functioning smith shop. That makes perfect sense, I guess. But yeah, point being, that is massively raising the price of some tools and lowering the cost of a couple. Creature type: Aberration, Beast, Celestial, Construct Dragon, Elemental Fae, Fiend, Giant, Humanoid, Monstrosity, Ooze, Plant, Undead. Have they changed anything? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 14. I think weren't there 18 before? Okay, nope, there were always 14 creature types. I'm literally losing it. These types don't have rules themselves, but some stuff does stuff. A D20 test is the 3 main rolls of the game: ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws. So they're just naming D20 roll, D20 test instead of roll, which is fine, I guess. This hasn't really changed anything other than, I guess they've keyworded attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, which they used to print all 3 of those in a list format. Now they can just say D20 test. Although I would really prefer a less clunky and mechanical term. Ability check, attack roll, saving throw, those are all descriptive terms. D20 test feels like a game mechanic term. That feels like that feels like the tutorial character in a game, instead of saying, quick, jump up that ledge, saying, quick, walk up to that ledge and press the A button. And you're like, bro, what's an A button? But I don't really have a better term to substitute in here. I'm not the one who can come up with that. Although, I mean, I could if I cared enough, but I'm not going to, because I don't. This is playtest material. I'm sure they'll figure it out. Or they won't, and this will just be called this, and I'll just be slightly annoyed. To be warranted, a D20 test must have a target number no less than 5 and no greater than 30. You can get pretty high. That's a way to start a sentence. Okay, with plus 5 to an ability score and plus 6 to proficiency, you can have a plus 11 to a check, which hits a 31 on a nat 20, right? You can then add Bardic Inspiration and potentially another 10 points. So, in theory, at the highest levels, and that's not exhaustive, by the way. You can do Bless, you can do all sorts of things. You can just keep stacking bonuses. Even in 5th edition, you can stack bonuses. You can get way past 30, but I see where you're coming from. Rolling a 1. If you roll a 1 on the d20, it automatically fails. That is fair, because if you're rolling a d20, you are rolling a die to determine whether you succeed or fail, which means there should be a chance that you fail, and if rolling a 1 isn't a failure, you just shouldn't be rolling, right? The same thing over here. Rolling a 20 means you succeed. Be very careful when calling for rolls. And if you're a player, don't roll if no one's called for a roll. You can't just say, I'm going to roll perception. Oh, look, I got a 20. What do I see? There's nothing to see. It's an empty room. What do you mean? But yes, rolling a 1 automatically fails. Rolling a 20 automatically succeeds. That is how that should work if you're using dice correctly. Rolling the maximum value on your dice should always mean that you did the thing you were trying to do, or there's no point in rolling dice. Rolling the minimum on your dice should mean that you always failed to do what you were trying to do, or there's no point in rolling for it. However, a player character also gains inspiration when rolling the 20 thanks to the remarkable success. I'm not a fan of that at all! Yes, if you roll a natural 20 on anything, you have inspiration on the next thing that you do. Or the next thing that you want advantage on, anyway. You're just throwing inspiration at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's cheapening the mechanic. There's no... Inspiration is pointless now. They're handing out inspiration like Halloween candy. And trust me, I've seen a lot of Halloween candy. They ship it to the stores in August for some reason. Rolling a 20 doesn't bypass limitations on the test, such as range and line of sight. Only bonuses and penalties to the roll. I guess that's fair, yeah. Rolling a 20 doesn't mean you did something that's not physically possible. It just means that the thing that you were trying to do that you already determined was possible by calling for a roll is what happens. Weapons and unarmed strikes have a special feature for player characters. Weird that you would specify for player characters. Does this mean monsters, can't crit anymore? When a player character rolls a 20 for an attack roll with a weapon or unarmed strike, they're removing spell crits, by the way, which means there's really no reason to take an attack spell anymore. The whole point of an attack spell is high risk, high reward. With a saving throw, you get reliable damage because they take half damage if they succeed. With a spell attack, if you miss, you get absolutely nothing. But you might crit. They're nerfing spells, which I can't really complain about from a balance perspective, but that's not the main issue with spellcasters by a long shot. More importantly, though, a critical hit just means it deals extra damage equal to the damage dice of the weapon. So that nerfs rogues. If your weapon or unarmed strike has no damage dice, it deals no extra damage. I mean, that's technically not a change to the rules, but it does feel bad. Like, pointing it out is kind of rough. I don't really like this change. This is the is this the first thing? This is a thing that this was spoiled, by the way. I knew about how they changed critical hits ahead of time. I really don't like it, guys. I don't know what to tell ya. Partly, I will admit, because I play rogues a fair amount. Not exclusively. I mean, I'm not playing a rogue at the moment. I'm playing a fighter and a druid. But when you get that sneak attack critical hit, and you can just pick up all the dice at the entire table, and you could just go, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. I got all the dice. Oh! I don't know what that sounded like on my microphone. Those were flash drives. Those weren't dice. Anyway, rolling a ridiculous amount of dice is fun, and this is less fun. Divine spells are for clerics and paladins. Gaming set now only costs 1 gold regardless of what it is, which means that, you know, a deck of cards and an ornate chess set carved of the finest marble, same price. I get that it's game mechanics, but the economy is in shambles, guys. Grappled condition. Your speed is 0 and can't change. You have disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than the grappler. Is that the same as before? It shouldn't be if it's in this appendix, but it feels like it should be the same. Or that vibes with how grappled sounds like it would work. Anyway, yeah, I see no issue with that. Oh. The grappler can drag or carry you, but they suffer the slowed condition. Slowed is now a condition. Okay. Wow, unless you're tiny or 2 or more sizes smaller than the grappler. It does not specify. Those are just both true. If you are tiny and or 2 sizes smaller than the grappler. So that means that a tiny creature grappling another tiny creature is not slowed when they drag the tiny creature that they grappled. So that means that a spider, a tiny beast spider, is not slowed down at all if it grapples a pixie. While you're incapacitated, you can't take actions, you can't take reactions, your concentration is broken, which I think they did specify that in the rules for concentration before, but now it's specified in the condition, which is a little more convenient. You can't speak, and if you're incapacitated when you roll initiative, you have disadvantage on the roll. Huh. Okay. I'm completely fine with all of this, honestly. Incapacitated is fairly debilitating, but that's what the word incapacitated means. When you have inspiration, you can expend it to give yourself advantage on a thing. You must decide to do so before rolling the die. So they didn't change it. The main way a character gains inspiration is by rolling a 20 for a d20 test. That is a major departure from the previous rules. They are saying the main way, the intended way to get inspiration is from rolling a 20. The DM can also award inspiration to a character that's done something heroic or amusing. You know, the thing that this rule was designed for. Only 1 inspiration at a time. That is the same way that worked before. However, if something gives you inspiration and you already have it, you can give inspiration to a player character in your group that lacks it. So you can do that reactively now instead of the way that it worked before. So that is changed. A little. Just a little. And that's actually a positive change. Just, oh, I can't have another inspiration here. It bounces off of me, goes to whoever doesn't have inspiration. That's pretty good. Losing inspiration, when you start a long rest, you stop having inspiration if you have it. That's a little annoying. That's just a drain of the 1 stack of inspiration. I mean, they really didn't have to do that, but they did that. Okay. Interesting. So if you roll a 20 right before you go to bed, I guess you just wasted a crit. Long rests are the same as usual, I think. They regain all hit points. They regain half their hit dice. They can't long rest twice in a 24-hour period, which I don't think anyone really... I feel like that doesn't come up often enough to justify the text in the rulebook, but I guess it's fine to mention. And you must have at least 1 hit point at the start of the rest to gain the benefits. Okay. Interrupted by combat or 1 hour of walking, casting spells, etc. No benefit. However, if the rest was 1 hour long before the interruption, the creature gains the benefit of a short rest. Yeah, okay, fair. That's the same as before. Musical instruments just exist. They cost 20 gold. That's kind of a lot, guys. I mean, bards have to use these for a spellcasting focus, but that's more expensive than the other spellcasting foci. And like, if you're not a bard, that's a lot of money to drop on literally nothing. A flavor item. Don't get me wrong, I like flavor items. I've spent 25 gold on an empty book just so that my character can have a journal, like, in setting. But why you gotta do bards like that, huh? Why you gotta make their spellcasting focus twice as expensive as everyone else's? Huh. Primal spells are for druids and rangers. Yeah, we get it. We get the idea. Load means that you have to spend 1 extra foot of movement for every movement that you move. Attack rolls against you have advantage. Uh-oh. You have disadvantage on dex saves. This makes grappling someone significantly harsher on you. I feel like grappling is not something that needed to be made more inconvenient. If you have proficiency with a tool, you can add your proficiency bonus to anything that uses that tool. Ability check, I should say. You can't use your proficiency bonus to attack with a tool set. Attack with Weaver's tools. If you have proficiency in the skill that's also used with that check, you have an advantage on the check too. Interesting. This functionality means you can benefit from both skill proficiency and tool proficiency and ability check. Yeah, we got that part. This is the first time that I'm getting any indication that skills and tools apply to the same check in general. Like, are they going to update the skill list? Because a craft skill would seem warranted there, you know? If crafter is a feat and tool proficiencies are no longer the only thing that apply to a check that uses a tool proficiency, why not a crafting skill? Something to consider for the next playtest document. A creature with tremor sense can pinpoint the location of creatures and moving objects within a specific range, as long as it and the thing it's detecting are in contact with the same surface or liquid. Liquid? Tremor sense for liquid. I guess? Yeah, sure. Tremor sense can't detect creatures or objects in the air, and it doesn't count as a form of sight, which I guess they're probably specifying so that you can use it while blinded, which is the primary benefit of tremor sense anyway. Like, you don't really need it if you're not blinded. I don't know what the point of redefining this was. I don't think that's any different than it was before. It's probably just worded more clearly, and also, like, in a more relevant section now that it's a dwarf feature instead of you having to open the monster manual to figure out what tremor sense is. An unarmed strike is a melee attack that involves using your body to damage, grapple, or shove a target within your reach. Huh. So grapple and shove are being rolled into unarmed strike instead of actions in combat. That's weird. On a hit, your unarmed strike causes either 1 bludgeoning damage, plus your strength modifier, or you push them 5 feet or knock them prone, without them having the chance to resist it with acrobatics or athletics. So they buffed shove, or the target is grappled again without them rolling against you, and your escape DC equals strength proficiency 8. This grapple is possible only if the target is... yeah, okay. So they buffed the actual application method for grapple and shove, but they nerfed the effects of grapple because you have significant downsides when people can attack you with advantage just because you're dragging someone across the room. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but it's pretty harsh. There are now 3 main spell lists. In future, Unearthed Arcana will show how classes use these spell lists and how a class or subclass might gain spells from another list. It is only cantrips and first level spells. So Arcane is going to be Acid Splash, Blade Ward, Chill Touch, Dancing Lights, Firebolt, Friends Light, Mage Hand, Mending, Message, Minor Illusion, Poison Spray, Prestidigitation, Ray of Frost, Shocking Grasp, True Strike, and Vicious Mockery. Which means that wizards, warlocks, sorcerers, and what was the other one? Who cares? You can all learn Vicious Mockery now. That's a thing. That's no longer a bard exclusive spell. Also, Eldritch Blast is gone. Crab Rave. First level is going to be Alarm Armor of Agathis, Harms of Hadar, Burning Hands, Charm, Person, Chromatic Orb, Color Spray, Comprehend Languages, Detect Magic, Disguise Self, Dissonant Whispers, Expeditious Retreat, False Life, Featherfall, Find Familiar. You can get that on... You can get that on Bards, Sorcerers, and... I think Sorcerers I already had. You can get that on Bards now. Bard. You can be a Bard. You can find Familiar. Yeah. Bard Familiar. Yeah. Fog Cloud, Grease, Hellish Rebuke, Hex. Hex! Okay. Identify, Illusory Script, Jump Longstrider, Mage Armor, Magic Missile, Protection from Stuff, Brave Sickness, Shield, Silent Image, Sleep, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Tensors, Floating Disc, Thunderwave, Unseen Servant, and Witch Bolt. As you can see, that is the longest spell list. The Divine Spells list is, shorter than the first level spells list. I don't know if that's true, I'm not measuring. Point is, arcane spells, there's a lot of. Other types of spells, not so much. Divine cantrips are Guidance, Light Resistance, Sacred Flame, Sparing the Dying, and Thaumaturgy. First level spells, Bane, Bless Command, Compel Duel, Cure Wounds. This is just going to blend the Cleric and Cleric and Paladin, and then Druid and Ranger are going to blend together on Primal. The 3 spell list system affects arcane casters way more, just because there are more arcane casters. Again, I don't like it. But, yeah, that's the end of this document. It's not that different, and it's mostly not that surprising, but it's definitely a thing. This one D&D that they speak of. One D&D to rule them all, you could say. I don't know, what do you think? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this the end of Dungeons and Dragons as we know it? Or is this basically not meaningful in any way? Shape the future of Dungeons and Dragons. Start playtesting 1D&D rules today. Or like, you know, a week ago. Probably should have done it a week ago.